Hello Linux fans, Rob here and welcome to Linux Quest. In this video we're going to do a follow-up to the first release candidate review of Deepin 15.4. In this video we're going to take a look at some of the Deepin apps as well as the controls. So stay tuned. So I want to start out this follow-up to the initial Deepin 15.4 release candidate review and just make the statement that this is a release candidate. Not everything is finalized and there could be some bugs before released that are fixed. But at the same time, if there are things that I think should be highlighted or bring attention to, I need to do that because developers actually watch these videos and they may see some things there where they could go in and make improvements. So I think it's helpful. I understand completely that any distribution that is in beta form or release candidate form, there could still be issues. Typically when it gets to a release candidate form, a lot of these bugs have been squished. So I just wanted to make that statement before we dig in, because there are a few little niggles here and there that I've experienced, and to be just, you need to point those out so that if there are people who like to try things early, they will be aware of any issues or niggles that could be in place. Alright, so with all of that said, we're going to take a look at some of the controls, and I want to talk about some of the things that truly do make this a different kind of distribution, a different kind of operating system than your typical Linux operating system. One of the things that stands out when you first boot into Deepin is that you only have this dock here at the bottom. There are no other taskbars in place. And so truly everything that you do interaction wise with your applications and just general operation of the desktop is done here within this dock. And so you'll notice, for example, I've got the screen recorder running and I have two controls here, or excuse me, I have two icons here. One is to control the actual application, which is this one here, and the other is an indicator. So it's combining your system tray icons along with your application icons. And that is different from many of the desktop environments that you'll find in other Linux distributions. A lot of times you'll find a separate panel at the top or at the bottom depending on where your controls or your dock is located. If it's over here on the left, a lot of times you'll find system tray icons in the upper right, for example. Here it's all combined into one, so you're going to interact with the Deepin desktop differently than you would again your typical Linux desktop environment. So wanted to make sure that that was clear to anyone who may be looking at Deepin for the first time. Now I personally like the way this is combined, and one of the reasons I like it is because it creates a clutter-free desktop. And the other thing that is different is the control panel, which we looked at in the first video for 15.4, and this is where you control all of your settings. And this is also different than what you'll find in your typical Linux distribution. And I hate to keep using the word typical Linux distribution, but I'm trying to point out where Deepin truly is unique. So in most distributions you will find an area that will be a control panel that will be in a window environment that's more of a full screen window environment where you can go in and choose the various settings and everything for the system. There are a few distributions that do have panels and allow you some control, but that's typically not where you find all of the control settings. So in the case of Deepin, that's exactly where you find all of your control settings. But you also see here in the default view of the panel here, you'll see some information such as time. Right now it's not able to gather the weather information for the location. But you'll also see here system notifications. Now some of this is going to be redundant from the first video, but bear with me. And then you'll see quick controls here. With that said, we're going to jump over, and again, this is where all of your settings are. Now in the first video I covered some of these settings, but I just kind of really felt like maybe it was important to really show some of the major differences here, because in the first video I stated that it is unique in several areas, and so part of that is your interaction with the desktop environment being exclusive to this dock here at the bottom. Now one area that I didn't get into, and this is an area that is not exclusive to the Deepin desktop environment, you do see this in other distributions, however I'm glad that it's present, and that's corner navigation or corner settings. So in each of the four corners you have options for various controls. So in this case we've got fast, actually you'll have these options in all four corners. But in the case of the Deepin desktop, your options are fast screen off, control center, all windows, the launcher, back to the desktop, or none. And so here I've chosen all windows. Well, didn't mean to close that out. And then here at the bottom I've chosen the launcher, which is the application launcher. And then we have control center for top and bottom here. But it's nice having that additional control in place because it's clean and you don't really know that it's there, and it's really out of your way. But one issue that I have found is that the corner navigation, again this is release candidate, is not 100% effective. So there you see that I really had to make a precise movement, and again it's not activating. But if we shoot up to the top, you'll see now that that's active, while earlier it wasn't working. Now the control panel side seems to work fine. Well, there we have delay. And again, I'm not trying to beat up on anyone or be negative. I just need to point this out, not only for the developers but for people who like to try things early. So there, now it's going to slide out. Now this could be due in part to the fact that I'm using a wireless mouse perhaps. There we go. Now the application launcher is or corner is working, but it's sporadic. But having those additional controls there really adds to the overall experience, and again keeps everything nice and clean. Now another area where Deepin is unique is they've got their own set of apps, and this is not entirely exclusive to Deepin. There are other distributions that have created or introduced their own apps within their operating system. Elementary OS comes to mind. And Deepin, though, does an especially good job at introducing their own apps, and I think many of these, and I need to verify this, so don't hold me to this, but I think many of their apps were developed from scratch, or for the most part from scratch. So we want to go through in this video and point out some of their exclusive apps. So first of all, we have Deepin Music, and you'll notice that these applications are in keeping with the actual desktop environment, which is very clean and minimal. And for many of you, I know that's you know, a major thing that you're looking for. Sometimes though you can be too minimal, and it makes it a little difficult to find exactly what you're looking for in way of settings. So there's a bit of an exploration that has to take place when you have a super minimal design. But here this allows you to go in and add music. You can scan your music directory or drag and drop your music files here. Now I don't have music loaded up on this to go through and step through everything here, but also it would make for a long video if I stepped through every detail of every one of the Deepin apps. So here you can create a new playlist. Add your music files. They've got a color mode here. Okay, there we go. Now that's switched it over to dark. We need to look at that in some of the other Deepin apps as well, because that's something I was talking about in the first video. Then you have a settings section where you can go in and set up your key shortcuts. You can set it up for autoplay, resume play is enabled, and enable fade is checked. And that's under play settings. And then you have shortcuts. So that would allow you to get things set up. Now let's see, this control here is repeat playlist, your volume slider, and then your playlist. So I'm going to add some music later and just experiment with this and see how things flow. It was nice to find that deep color mode. That looks nice. Alright, so let's jump over here and take a look at the next Deepin app, and we have Deepin Movie. Now by default this is going to launch all black, which makes sense because if you are watching a movie and you're in a windowed environment or whatever, you don't want a bright white. You want to stay with dark colors when you're watching a movie. So here you could open the file or the folder or a URL. You can set it to be always on top. You can create a playlist here as well. You've got a play sequence where you can change the order. So you got random, single, repeat. Under play you've got previous and next. You can adjust volume there or mute it there, and then toggle on the settings for subtitles. Now we'll go into settings here, and you've got a larger menu here, so you could go for the playback category. You've got full screen. You can choose to apply the size the last time it was closed, clear the playlist, resume playback after restarting the player, continue to next video automatically, show the preview when hovering over progress bar, allow multiple instances. So let's say you were editing family videos and you had two videos from the same scene that you wanted to work with. This would allow you to look at both of those at the same time, which is a nice feature. Time span, you've got keyboard commands here as well, and this is key for many of you, I know. And you see a little bit of flicker there. That's interesting as I'm scrolling through the settings. Actually, this is something here as I'm looking at these settings. This looks closer to what the original Deepin Control Center used to look like. It was a darker, it had a darker look, and it wasn't translucent. Now you've got options here. As we scrolled down, we were covering a lot of these options, but they're categories, so you can quickly go to those particular settings. So you've got lots of options here for subtitle settings. So you can adjust the color of the subtitles, so on and so forth. Let's look at About. So this is Deepin Movie version 2.2.2. Make sure I didn't miss anything here. And then you've got your basic controls here for stop, rewind, fast forward, play, volume, full screen, open a file, and playlist. They've done a nice job. Next we'll look at Deepin Screen Recorder. Now I have launched this a couple of times. Now here you see click or drag, select area to record. Now I'm already recording, so I'm not going to re-record over what I'm recording. But this was the default that I launched into the first time, and I'll just tell you that what I found was that it would record the screen just fine, and I could adjust the frame and everything. And I believe this is new to this version, but I did not find an area where I could record audio, and that may come in future releases. Alright, let's move on here to Deepin Screenshot. And Deepin Screenshot works well. It's typically, now here we are recording, so this may not, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and you'll see here we took a screenshot. This basically defaulted to full screen, and what I have found in launching the screenshot tool, and I don't recall having this issue with previous versions, is that typically you would get controls up top that would allow you to adjust the size of the screenshot, things like that. Now there may be a series of key commands or something that I need to press in order to activate those controls, but what I have found is sometimes the controls appear and sometimes they don't. Alright, so we'll move on from there, and then we have Deepin Image Viewer. And again, this is very nice, it's clean. Let's go to the deep color mode. So I really like to see that. That's nice, because if you're using the dark theme, this now allows you to switch the Deepin Apps over to the darker theme, and I missed that in the first video. And so if we go into settings here, you've got a new album, so you can create a new album. And then this allows you to set up a slide. So under the slide, you've got various effects. You've got blinds, sliding, switcher, and ring. Now, this is very nice. That's under your effects. You can set up the duration. So here it's set to 2 seconds. And then you've got lots of shortcut options. So this is nice to see as well. So you could launch the album with Control-Shift-N, for example. So while you can go through and see a slideshow, it's nice to have those additional settings. It's nice to see that it doesn't just default right into, you know, one setting for the slideshow, and that's the only option you have. Now I would like to see some basic controls. Let's see what this does here. Alright, so you could sync your directory. I'd like to see some basic controls for some basic editing function. And let's add an image here. Do I have an image? Let's go to wallpaper. No, I don't have an image here. Let's see. Well, I was going to add an image before I speak on this, but I would like to see some controls for, tell you what, let's just quickly download an image. And we'll do Deepin. And let's see here, save, oops, we'll save image. And now we'll add that image. Well, I thought we would. Let's, oh, I saved it in pictures perhaps. Where did I save that? Well, what am I saying? Here we've got one that we screen clipped. Now that's strange. It's actually not showing any image. Alright, we're going to drag it over and drop it. There we go. Alright, so what that did was that automatically created an album, and then that allowed us to drag the image into the album. Now I'm going to select the image. Okay, so I wanted to pull this image in because I wanted to speak to the controls for editing, and I wanted to make sure that I was correct in that, because in the first run of this, I pulled in some images and expected to see a few basic controls for editing. So it would be nice to see, for example, and this is just a suggestion for future releases, it would be very nice to see cropping, for example, where you could just go in and do a simple crop, or maybe a simple control for resize, for example, or brightness and contrast settings, something like that. That would really make this, I think, a super standout image viewer, because you've already got the ability to set up albums and slideshows. If you add those few basic editing controls in there, then you've really got something. So just a suggestion. Alright, so we'll move on from there. That took a little longer than I expected, but that's my fault. I didn't have images in place. And then we want to look at the Deepin File Manager, the Deepin Store again, and the Deepin Terminal. Then you also have Deepin Bootmaker. We'll jump into that, and Deepin Calendar. Let's see if I'm missing any of the other Deepin apps. Alright, so we took a look at the file manager in the first video, but we're going to look at it again since I'm going through all of the apps. Now this is an area that's just fine. You've got a file manager that'll do what it needs to do, but there's certain areas where you could see room for improvement. And a lot of file managers, they want to have that combination of being clean and sparse and not too many controls in your way. And a lot of times that works fine, but with file managers, that's an area where people like to use those a particular way. And so if it's difficult to find certain controls or you're lacking various settings, usually the file manager is where you see people very particular. And in this case, I think that while it's a perfectly fine file manager, there's certainly areas where I would like to see more control, where you give the user the ability to go in and set things up in a way that may get it closer to what they're used to using on the file manager side. So here we just created a new window, for example, and so I'm going to minimize that. What I would rather see there would be the ability to set up tabs. So now one thing I do like is you've got a password or sharing capability here. So here's where we would go in and set our share password. Alright, we're going to go, let's take a look at about. I keep missing about in some of these versions. So this is version 1.4. And then we'll go back over here to settings again. And I know we did this in the first video, but I didn't spend a lot of time going through all of the settings. So under your basic settings, you've got open behavior, and here you can choose always open folder in new window, and then open the file on single click or double click. And then you have new window and tab. Oh, there we go. So you can set that up. See, you learned something here, or I learned something. Let me put it that way. I learned something. So open new window, current directory. Let's see here. Open new window tab. So let's take a look at how that's going to work. We'll do that with pictures, and then we can adjust the size there. So you've got extra small, small, medium, large. Let's go to large. There we go, and that's going to adjust your folder size. We could toggle on or off show hidden files. I'm going to turn that back off, and then we'll go down here to advanced settings. So you've got a preview, so you can preview compressed file preview, a text preview, document preview, image preview, and video preview. I haven't put the previews through the test. As you can see, I don't have a lot of images and things downloaded. And then you've got options for mount here. So if you insert a USB flash drive, for example, you could choose to auto mount that or auto mount that and open. So we'll choose that. And then under dialog, use the file chooser dialog of the Deepin File Manager. So those are your basic and advanced settings within the file manager. So again, I think, for just typical file manager function, it's going to do everything you need. You can, cut, copy, paste. You can share the folder. You can compress, create links, open as admin, and open in terminal. If we go into property, it's going to give you basic information. If you wanted to share this folder, you could choose that. I like the little drop downs here under property. This is nice. Alright, so let's go in here. So basically you have the two views, which is going to be icon view and list view. And you've got that option here by right clicking anywhere on the on a blank space inside the file manager. Then you've got sort options here, so we could sort by name, time, size, and type. There is a select all. And let's just create a new document here and see what that looks like. Now the naming here of that is interesting, where you have, typically you're going to see all lowercase, and here we have one uppercase. And I wanted to point this out as well. So instead of having delete, I got a kick out of this, you're going to throw it to the trash. And when I saw that, I just pictured, wadding up a piece of paper and throwing it over into the trash can, trying to make sure you hit it into the trash can. So I appreciated that. So we could rename from here, compress, so on and so forth. So we're going to throw this to the trash. I can almost hear the wadding of the paper sound too when you do it. So, all right, so we'll move on from there and look at some of the other Deepin apps. But again, this is an area where I'd like to see maybe where you can, and it may just be my fault. Here we go, open in new tab. There we go. I was trying to figure that out earlier. I'm going to have another cup of coffee, folks, and wake up on this. So there we go. That's what I was looking for, were tabs. That just makes it easy to quickly change from one to the other. So nice to see. And there's your little X. Alright, so next we're going to move back into the Deepin Store. I remember the first time I installed Deepin and I launched into the store, I was really blown away because it's bright and it's colorful and there's a lot there, and I just thought, wow, this is an area that you need to spend time and explore because there's so much here. And that hasn't changed. Every time I look at this, I just think, what a nice job. You've got these bright, colorful icons, and typically when you launch into, let's look at something here. We'll launch into this. Typically what you find is this screen here. So you've got large images. You've got a description of what the application is. In this case, it's a 3D real-time strategy game. Actually, I'm going to have to really check this one out. I've never played this game, and it's got a 5.0 rating. Well, that's 1 rating out of 1 rating, but lots of downloads, so this will be one to definitely check out. But you get a description here before I get off into the game here. Better stick to the video. So you've got lots of images, and I haven't found a way to really, other than, I'm trying to click and drag, but the only way I've found to scroll through the images is to click on the little dots here. I don't really see controls. Maybe that's something that they can add where you have controls to slide left and right. But it's great seeing images this large of what the app looks like. And it's great having a description here. And I also like the fact that you get comments. Now in this case there are no user comments, but they've done an exceptional job in a lot of areas here with this App Store. Let's choose another one, and it's kind of hit and miss, and I'm not going to chalk this one up to it being a release candidate because I've had similar little quirks within the Deepin Store in previous versions. And I think this is an area where maybe a lot of developers struggle, because as applications update and things change within the application, you've got a lot to keep up with there. So I'm not familiar with, say, Eclipse family, so let's take a look at that. So this is development environment, and so what this did, now this is nice and this is a great idea. This is basically a category page for all of the Eclipse applications. Eclipse for testers, and now you could go in and see more details here. Nicely done. Now the server connection I have for the store, and I've gone in and I've tried to switch to US-based servers for higher speed, but you'll see here how slow this is populating. And that's because of the particular server that I'm connected to. But currently that's really one of the main options, or it shows up as the current server that I am connected to shows up as one of the faster servers, but it's still slow in certain areas. So maybe that's something that will change with the official release, where there'll be some options to actually connect to the US-based servers. The other thing I like here, you've got rankings, you've got home, which is going to show you that first screen, and then you have rankings. And I think this is a terrific idea to go through and look at different applications based on rank. I want to make sure I haven't lost my internet. Nope, still connected. So you'll see here that's just populating slow. So I'm going to give them an A here for design and for aesthetics and everything, and just layout of the Deepin Store. Definitely going to give them an A there. But as far as implementation and some of the quirks and things that you run into and inconsistencies that you run into, and again, this may change at final release. This may be greatly improved. Hey, I wanted to install Vivaldi, so I'm going to go ahead and get that installing. But this may change and be greatly improved by the time it's released. But I've had similar interaction in previous versions, so I feel like that maybe this is going to be the same result upon release. I don't know that for sure, but an A for implementation, overall look, and layout of the store for sure. And I'm going to give them a C on it not feeling like it's completely 100% done. So we'll move on from there. And next we're going to go to Deepin Terminal. And just fine. It's it's going to do what it needs to do. You've got a few options here to switch theme. So different themes, that's kind of nice. If you use the terminal a lot, I think maybe you'll appreciate being able to change that up. And you certainly don't see this in all terminals. You've got custom commands that you could set up. Remote management, so you could add your server there. And then let's go into other settings. So you can set up the opacity, change the font size, shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, set up the cursor for style here, scroll on keystroke. Actually some pretty darn good settings here for a terminal. Very nice. We're going to switch that theme. There we go. Very nice. Alright, and Deepin Bootmaker. Now this is one I haven't looked at before, so we'll take a first look at this together. Select your ISO image, and you could simply drag and drop it or select it from here and then click next. So that would step you through the process. So I'll have to download a new ISO of something. I've got a couple of distributions in mind that I'm going to be trying out, so we'll definitely give this a go and see how it works. I want to make sure I haven't missed any of the Deepin apps, and I think there's, let's see, now the calculator may be their own. Let's check this. Okay, this is not their own. And Deepin user feedback. And we'll look at the Deepin calendar. Now you can also access the Deepin calendar from your dock here at the bottom. So we're going to do it that way. Because I want to talk about again some of the interactions here. This is more than just launching applications. You've actually got controls. Because this is the area where you interact with everything, they've added some smart controls to the icon. So for example, this is your power icon. If you hover over it, it's going to show you 100% charged. But if you right click, you're going to get options for shutdown, restart, log out, suspend, and general power settings. So that's very interactive. With your volume control, for example, you can slide up and down to adjust your volume, but at right click you could go right into mute or audio settings. So very interactive. So from here you could go to time settings, And then you've got the trash can here. You can right click that and open it, or go ahead and empty. So we'll go ahead and empty. You've got some neat sound effects there. So again, very, very interactive here. Now I've got this app running, and then you'll see the system tray icon is also right here. And from that I could stop this recording or save the recording, quit, so on and so forth. Now let's go back over here to calendar. If I click the clock, you get a little pop-up, but if I click it, you jump right into the Deepin calendar. Now let's see if you can also change. Now see here, there is no dark. There's no theme in place yet. That may change. But let's look at this version. This is version 1.0. Just a simple, clean interface that allows you a quick look at the date and everything. And you can scroll from month to month. Jump ahead in year. And then up here, this is static, showing you what the date is and what the month is, or what the day is. So just a simple, clean calendar. So that about rounds it up. Hopefully I haven't missed anything with the Deepin Apps. And I really wanted to focus again on the controls here and how this interacts differently than other distributions. And overall, it's coming along very nicely. I may do some additional videos on this. Certainly want to take a look at it when it releases officially, in all fairness. And if you're looking for something new, this is definitely something to keep your eye on, if you're looking for something new and different especially. Alright, that's it for now, and we will check you later. Thanks for watching.